Welcome back, everyone. Well, in the great traditions of sporting rivalry between New Zealand and Australia, we have yet another battle. The second test to be staged at the Rotorua International Stadium. And now with team lineups, let's introduce our commentators today. Brendan Telfer, assisted by Frank Endicott.
And for this test today, the 5 Kiwi selectors have made 3 changes from the team beaten last weekend in Christchurch. Gary Mercer, playing here in front of his home crowd, has recalled for his 6th test. He replaces the injured Mark Elia on the left wing. Gary Freeman comes in at standoff for Clayton Friend. This will be Freeman's first full match for 16 weeks after serving a controversial 12-match suspension. And on the Kiwi front row, Dwayne Mann, the Auckland hooker and son of the 1971 Kiwi Don Mann, earns his first test cap. And the Kiwis, again led today by Hugh McGann. So that's the New Zealand team with just one new cap today, Dwayne Mann. Let's have a look at the Australian lineup now. An entirely predictable look about this Kangaroo team. The same 13 that comfortably won the first test. This brilliant back line, all Queenslanders except halfback Greg Alexander. There's Belcher, Shearer, Hancock and Curry, all with pace to burn. And inside of them, complementing their speed, the shrewd genius of the peerless Wally Lewis. And in front of him, this big mobile forward lineup led superbly by 24-year-old Paul Sirinen, man of the match last weekend. Just one of 3 big Kangaroo forwards who weigh in at over 100 kilograms. And Wally Lewis will be leading the Australian side again today, playing in his 31st test. So it's from Brendan Dugan, and I think Tom Bradley has really started something here with these live performances of the national anthem, and we can tell you next week at Mount Smart Stadium it's going to be the New Zealand top-rated band Herbs, which will sing the national anthems of the 2 teams. That's, I guess, worth the price of the admission alone. There he is, Paul Sirinen, the man the Kiwis have to stop today. It was his bullocking, tackle-breaking runs that really underpinned the Australian superior last Sunday. Now, before the match gets underway, there is going to be, of course, the haka.
Multicultural groups will give the Kiwis all the support they need for the haka.
Being led by Sam Stewart. And he's getting a little bit of support too from the Makoia Taiaha cultural group in the background. Something to save it. The haka with the best part of 130 Kiwis on the field, because there were 120 members there of the Makoia Taiaha cultural group led by Mita Mohi, who himself was a Kiwi back in the early 1970s, and they've been entertaining this large crowd of about 15 to 20,000 people here at the International Stadium in Rotorua this afternoon. Now at last the match is about to get underway as Hugh McGann flicks the coin. It was Wally Lewis that called correctly last week, and I think he's done it again today. And the Australians, by the look of it, will play from right to left in the first half. There really is no wind here at all, and the ground, despite a lot of rain here in Rotorua and despite predictions of heavy rain again today, is probably, Frank Endicott, in better condition than the playing surface at Kiwi2 Park in Christchurch a week ago.
Yes, beautiful conditions out there, Brendan. Beautiful fine day, firm pitch, all the ingredients needed for a good game of football.
And so it's Kevin Edor, the New Zealand centre, that starts this match. The first time ever an international rugby league match has been played here in the city of Rotorua, and there's a tremendous vocal support for these Kiwis already in the first minute of the match. We never heard the crowd in such good voice as this at any stage in the match last week, but immediately a penalty going to the Australians and Wally Lewis. And there really is an electrifying atmosphere here in this big natural amphitheatre, a stadium that can hold 40,000 people, and probably around about half full, maybe just a little more today. From the free kick, it's the Australians just inside their own half. Steve Roach to Kieran Walters at demi half. Backo takes it up over halfway. Kieran Walters again at dummy half. There he is, sitting in, and this time 3 Kiwis go in on him. No chance that the 24-year-old could break through like he was last week in many stages, particularly the first half. Wally Lewis with a clever little kip, and Darryl Williams can only watch it roll into touch about 12 metres from the line.
Yes, good positive start here from Australia. Territorial-wise, they're right down on the Kiwi line already. And I noticed the Kiwis at this stage playing no second line of defence to cover those chip kicks.
Shane Cooper. In comes Gary Mercer, playing on the left wing today. There he is, number 5, hometown boy from Rotorua. And the Australians up inside the 5-metre mark as the Tennant awards the penalty to New Zealand. And a deep sense of relief after some early pressure there from the Australians, and now they have a chance to take play back towards halfway. Daryl Williams, one of the few Kiwis that came out of that match last week in Christchurch with his reputation very much intact after a big game, particularly in the second half, and his solid last line of defence. Mercer again coming in from the left wing, but a little high as he went round the neck on Gary Mercer. Two minutes into the first half of this match, and it was a very quiet start. Remember last week in Christchurch, first points didn't come until the 16th minute, but once the Australians started to hit their straps, the points came thick and fast. There it is, the first mistake by New Zealand, but meanwhile, Mr. Tennant has awarded a penalty against one of the New Zealanders. I think he might have been offside. And this really is a scoring opportunity here for Meninga. It's a big kick, but he's indicated, yes, he'll kick for goal. The man who didn't miss with 5 shots at goal in the first test, now with his first attempted goal here this afternoon.
Yes, the Kiwi just showing just a little bit of unsettled nerves out there at the moment, but they'll settle down in the next 2 or 3 minutes and they'll get on with the game. They look as though they're taking a more creative approach already in this game today.
Meninga, who really didn't feature much at all in the play last week, apart from his goal kicking, just there as an effective link man, and he did his job well, because it was the men outside of him, Shearer and Curry, that provided much of the strike power for the Australians. Curry, of course, scoring a try and also setting up another important try for Wally Lewis. And playing inside of them, this man, Mel Meninga. Pushes it out to the left. Gee, he really does have a big boot on him. It was just a gentle chip from the best part of 50 metres, and it certainly had plenty of length on it. So play to restart with the dropout from the quarter line, taken by Daryl Williams, kicking it deep inside the Australian half, and it's Meninga who pushes off Tony Kemp, makes play up inside of the New Zealand half. And lost forward. So the Australians making their first mistake. The ball has gone loose. Gathered in by Shane Cooper. Vaughton has him. So early nerves here from both teams. Dwayne Mann, the new cap, where is number 9 at halfback, playing a dummy half. Freeman. Hugh McGann. Hugh McGann playing it to himself. He wasn't marked by an Australian. He can do that. Takes play up inside of the Australian half. Freeman again. Chipping in over the top of those Australian backs, putting a little bit of pressure here on Belcher. Good kick there from Gary Freeman. And Belcher just outside his quarter line.
Yes, you can see the Kiwis today look a lot more organised out there with Gary Freeman on the side. You can see him, he looks like a traffic officer on point duty.
And here's big Steve Roach. 17 stone of him, such a key man in that Australian effort last week with those bullocking runs, making so much yardage, pushing off 2 tackles. Still inside the Australian half. Six minutes of play so far, no scoring. And the Australians looking a little bereft of ideas here. And here's Gary Freeman, if the bounce is right. Oh, Freeman just a couple of metres short. But the Australians really looked as if they were half asleep there. There was no organisation at all. And what's Mr. Tennant saying? He's calling a scrum. I think Freeman might have knocked the ball forward, and that desperate attempt to pull it in after the bounce just was a little unkind.
Just shows the skills of this little Freeman. You know, he's going to be the difference out there today. He's going to be a big plus for New Zealand.
But the Australians running it from inside their own quarter line. And look at this. We never saw this last week, and the crowd absolutely loving it. The Australians rolled back 10 metres That's the Australian goal line. Using the big man Backo to try and make some yardage. Breaks out a one tackle of Dwayne Mann, but taken by Brent Todd. Plenty of commitment from these Kiwis in the first 10 minutes of the second test. They know they must win this test, of course, to keep this series alive. And from the kick, Gary Mercer. He's got Darryl Williams with him, decides to have a run on his own, gets away from Alexander, but taken in the tackle by Suriname. Mercer again. Had a disappointing World Cup final at fullback. Playing his rugby league here in the Bay of Plenty. Tony Iro steps out of one tackle. Finds his brother Kevin, but the Australians go in over the top of Kevin Iro. Freeman, the long, sure pass to Cooper. Tony Kemp steps out of one tackle. This is better stuff from the Kiwis. Breaking the Australian defence more in the first 10 minutes of this match than I think we ever saw in Christchurch last week.
Much more positive approach from the Kiwi camp today. Very refreshing to see.
They are really playing like men possessed at the moment. The Australians up inside the 5 metre mark with their two props, Roach and Backo, and this is well within the range of Kevin Iro. And the ball popping loose, but the referee had seen the Australian players up inside the 5 metre mark, and the whistle had gone for the penalty. Well, the Australians are probably wondering just what has hit them, because we never saw that sort of commitment from the Kiwis last week.
The thing I notice out there mainly is the tackles are all low this week. They're stopping the ball carrier. The first tackles are going low. The second tackler comes over the top and kills the ball. This is what they've got to do for the whole 80 minutes to win this match today. They're doing it well at the moment.
Kevin Iro with a kick which was a stray, but the ball was knocked forward by Hancock and will come back for the scrum. Well, while that scrum goes down, we might just take a word from Graham Lowe. You'd have to be impressed, Graham, with what you've seen from the Kiwis so far.
Yes, certainly, Brendan. They're playing extremely well, but as you've been saying, I think the inclusion of Gary Freeman has played a positive part in it, but I'd like to see Gary actually take him on even more than he's doing now. He's got the razzle-dazzle and flair, and I think that if he gets in, he chases around those big fellas like a sheep shearer's dog. He can create all sorts of havoc, but the forwards, they can't get carried away. They've still got to back one another up and keep these mistakes at a minimum.
So the Kiwis just 5 metres from the Australian line as it's Sam Stewart as he tries to twist and pirouette his way over, but Backo has him. No score in the match so far. Freeman looking for the little kick, and the bounce was fortunate. Tony Kemp has got it. Another 6 tackles here for the Kiwis. Kept going through on his own, but back there was Meninga. And then look, goal line dropout. And there's a few of those Australians that are walking around a little groggy already, being subjected some fierce early pressure here from the Kiwis.
And a line drop out, and New Zealand are going to get 6 more plays inside the Australian half. Now they've got to work it to the post, and they've got to work one of their set plays here and get early points.
Wally Lewis getting plenty of yardage. A big kick from Lewis back almost to the New Zealand quarter line. And Tony Iro, one who really is under the microscope today because he had a fairly indifferent game in that first test in Christchurch, has looked a lot sharper today. However, Brent Todd, Dwayne Mann, dummy half, Gary Freeman, Cooper, Kevin Iro decides to have Lewis on, but Lewis and Curry barrel the big New Zealander. Dwayne Mann, Freeman to Sam Stewart. And most of this match so far, which has been in progress for just over 10 minutes, has been played inside the Australian half, and the kick, it's a good little chip again from Freeman, and New Zealand have possession. Another 6 tackles on the Australian quarter line. Brendan Tuta smashes his way into Greg Alexander. This is more like the Kiwi team of a couple of years ago, really taking it to the Australians. Now there's some numbers here. Brent Todd brought down just a metre short. He had Tony Iro outside of him, elected to go on his own. Freeman, Cooper, running at full pace. Darryl Williams, what a superb tackle on him by Vaughton. And Freeman again chipping through with a little kick, but the cover defence is back there. And Dale Shearer letting the ball go dead.
Great to see New Zealand playing the kicking game. This is where Auckland won the other night with their tactical kicks at putting them in behind the Australian line and turning them about. And New Zealand are looking very good here at the moment.
Gary Freeman, who's employed this tactic 3 or 4 times so far today, putting a lot of pressure on the Australians. But Shearer was back there to see it dead. From the restart, the Australians, Kieran Walter. Now, this is the first time for some time that the Australians have actually had possession as Gary Belcher tries to get his pass away, but today there was Brendan Tuta going low rather than high like he was last week. Vaughton. Roach nearly left it behind. 15 minutes into the first half, still no score in the match. New Zealand, who have had that one scoring opportunity from Kevin Ero from a handy position, and now for the first time in the match, the ball down on the New Zealand line. And that's very good play there by big Bradley Clyde. He stopped those 2 New Zealanders. Now the New Zealanders under pressure. Tony Ero at dummy half. Tuta. Gary Mercer running it out, 10 metres. Dwayne Mann again. And Brent Todd makes 5 metres, but another penalty against the Australians. Mr. Tennant again has caught them up inside the 5 metre mark from the play the ball. And a much needed defensive penalty to New Zealand. Well, I guess Frank Endicott, the question is, can the Kiwis keep this sort of pressure up for 80 minutes? So they really need to get points when they're down inside that Australian quarter line, don't they?
Certainly. Their territorial game so far has been excellent. They've just got to turn that into points. They're playing very well at the moment, though. It's a credit to them.
But we mustn't underestimate the solidity of this Australian defence, which has been rock hard as it was last week. The only try, of course, the Kiwis got was from an intercept last week. And again, they're proving it difficult, despite the fact they're able to make some of these breaks today. The Australians still there to nail them. And another opportunity here for the Australians, but this occasion, Lewis elects to kick for touch.
Yes, this is where they must tackle here.
Now, this is where the Australians are at their most dangerous, from this 20 to 30 metre mark from the New Zealand line. This is where all their tries came from last week. New Zealanders must make their tackles, particularly on these men wide out. Shearer and Curry and Belcher. Suriname trying to break through again. Yes, he makes another 10 metres. They're only 5 metres short of the line. Now Lewis. Lewis to Belcher. Belcher. And Mr. Tennant says no try.
Yes, held up in goal. Defenders put in. We must win this scrum. We must get out of this area.
We might have a look at that again, because that was very close. Belcher, I think he thought he might have just got there, but he didn't get the ball down. So the scrum just 10 metres from the New Zealand line. Shane Cooper taken by Lewis and Curry. Kemp running it out. Tony Kemp gets out of one tackle. Roach nails him, however. And away goes Kemp, but Mr. Tennant, I didn't think, was happy with that play of Tony Kemp's. There he is, Mr. Ray Tennant, officiating today, and only his second test match. The Englishman from Castleford. And the Australians in a very dangerous position here with Alexander trying to find the pass, but it's gone astray. New Zealand come away with it again, and there just doesn't look to be the fluency about this Australian effort so far in the first 20 minutes of this match.
No, the reason for that, of course, is that New Zealand are putting all the pressure on them, and this is great. They've got to keep it up. They've got to keep it up.
So James Goulding, who hasn't seen much of the play so far. 15 minutes of the first half and no score on the match. Graham Lowe.
Well, I think New Zealand can be pleased with their performance so far. Australia has actually only got down their end of the field from kicking. They haven't been able to run the ball down so far, but concentration now is the key. This is a very critical time of the match, and they've got to make sure that they don't put Australia under pressure and then let them off the hook by making silly errors.
So from that big downtowner, as they call it, the New Zealanders on attack again, but it's the Australians with possession. Meninga trying to break out of a couple of tackles, taken 10 metres outside his quarter line. 0-0 in the second test here at the International Stadium in Rotorua after nearly 20 minutes of play, approaching the midway stage of the first spell. As Sirinen again takes play up to within 10 metres of halfway. Walters to Lewis. Belcher, he's got Meninga and Hancock outside of him, but elects to kick for the corner flag. This might be a pretty useful kick, just a little too deep. It's a strange option there, I thought, Frank Endicott, with those two men outside of him.
Yes, what happened there, of course, is that one of the Kiwis, Hugh McGann, went up very, very quick on the Australians, and what he did, of course, the other two players stood back, and this created an opportunity for them on that flank. We must move up as a line together.
The referee, I think, has adjudged that there was a knock on there by the New Zealanders, and here's a very good attacking position for the Australians in centre field on the New Zealand quarter line. Alexander, Lewis manages to get his pass away to Vaughton, and Vaughton standing up in the tackle gets his pass away. The Australians keeping it alive. But Shearer taken by Dwayne Mann inside the New Zealand quarter line. Sirinen again, this is where he scored a try from in the second half last week when he broke 20 metres from the New Zealand line. Alexander again. This is out Lewis, Vaughton. They're just 10 metres short of the New Zealand line. Walters again to his Queensland teammate Lewis. Bradley Clyde, and he's appealing to the referee for a penalty against New Zealand for robbing him of the ball. Bradley Clyde can't believe it. In fact, New Zealand get the put in for the knock on there by Clyde. And Gary Freeman decides to have a probe on his own, but runs into those three big Australian forwards. It's Vaughton that takes him. Mercer again to Dwayne Mann at the dummy half. Brendan Tuta. And again the fumble, this time from Dwayne Mann. Maybe the ball is just a little wet and greasy, but some of the ground, particularly down at that end of the ground, is quite slushy. And some of the players just having a little difficulty with the ball. Lewis. This time he's taken in the tackle. He can't free the pass. Inside the New Zealand quarter line, 21 minutes of the match gone. No scoring yet. Vaughton to Belcher.
Yes, this is where we've got to keep them out. The Australians attacking on that right flank there. We've got to keep killing the ball. We can't afford to let them stand up in the tackles and unload the ball.
And the Australians again punching away at that New Zealand defence, using this big man, this superbly built athlete, Paul Sirinen. If they make a few more metres, Lewis having a little run on his own, and he's buried in the tackle this time, but he's only 10 metres short of the line, and the Australians, I think, have received a penalty here for some over-vigorous play on Wally Lewis. I think it might have been Sam Stewart. And yes, good call there from Ray Tennant. No need for that. And Lewis, he copped a king hit there. Let's have a look. The see who it was. I have a feeling it might have been Sam Stewart. Wally Lewis decides to have a little probe on his own. And in there goes one of those Kiwi forwards, obscured by our camera, but there's no question about it. Lewis certainly copped one in the face, and Mr. Tennant was on hand to see it.
I didn't think it looked too bad. I thought he was hit around the shoulder area, and I thought he went down into the tackle. I don't think it was as bad as it looked.
That's not the way Mr. Tennant saw it, and here's Meninga with a simple kick. So the first points of the Test match have been scored in the 21st minute, and Australia are ahead by 2 points to nil.
Big Mel Meninga makes no mistake about that. Australia leading New Zealand by 2 points to nil.
Kevin Ero to start play from halfway, with Australia drawing first blood in this match. Haven't seen a try so far from the first 20 minutes of the match as Belcher runs it out from his own line. Bradley Clyde to Kieran Walters at dummy half. And Meninga just managed to take that pass from Roach. Clyde, Belcher, Shearer is opposite man today. Mercer has him. The ball has gone loose. The whistle is gone.
Yes, Gary Mercer's doing a very good defensive job on Shearer over there on that flank. He's bailed him up every time he's touched the ball.
So New Zealand get the loose head from them. Or do they? Yes, it looked like an Australian knock-on in that tackle, and New Zealand get the ball. Cooper, the long pass to Kemp. Tony Kemp can't get past his opposite number, Curry, 10 metres outside the quarter line, inside the Australian half. Kevin Ero gets away from the nigger, but Vorton takes him in the tackle. Back to Dwayne Mann at dummy half. Freeman, Cooper to Sam Stewart. Can't get away from Alexander. Stewart, Cooper, the charge from Dwayne Mann. And again the Australians penalised, this time I think for some punching on Dwayne Mann from Stephen Roach. And well, let's have a look at this one now. Roach, who wasn't exactly a saint, there he is, no doubt about it. I'm not sure whether he connected, but he certainly went in with the intention of hitting the face of Dwayne Mann. And Steve Roach, who has a reputation for a bit of thuggery in Sydney Rugby League, and that's one of the reasons why Jack Gibson, apparently the New South Wales coach, won't have him in his State of Origin side. And Mr. Tennant caught that very early, and now Ero has a chance to level the scores. And that's another miss from Kevin Ero. Well, that's most unfortunate. That's two very simple kicks at goal he's missed.
Yes, if he keeps missing him in front, maybe they just might give Gary Mercer a kick. He knows every inch of this ground. He's a good, reliable goal kicker around the 25-30 metre range.
So from the restart, it's Darryl Williams, who down there on the touchline getting a bird's eye view of this match this afternoon is Howie Tamati. What do you think of the Kiwi effort so far, Howie?
Oh, it's been a good effort, but we're just putting a lot of pressure on ourselves. We've got to take the 2 points on top of that. 4 points we've lost so far. And when we've been down inside our 22, we've turned the ball over to them, and you just can't do that. We've got to get up there, up that end of the field and score some points.
Well, New Zealand have certainly had enough opportunities this afternoon. They've played much of this match inside the Australian half, and look at Tony Kemp. He's really living up to his reputation today. He's got Kevin Ero there, but goodness gracious, poor old Kevin Ero, he's having a bad day. The line was open, but for some unknown reason, his hands let him down, and the Australians have possession.
Yes, are the chances we must take. Oh, I must say, Tony Kemp's having a blinder today. He had a pretty quiet game last week, but today he's playing a blinder.
But there's Kevin Ero, who's missed 2 shots at goal. And the best scoring opportunity New Zealand had went begging there, but New Zealand do get a penalty. And Wally Lewis just seeking clarification, and yes, this time New Zealand have elected from a very, very close position, but nonetheless are kicking for the corner flag. Gary Mercer, who does have a reputation as a bit of a part-time goal kicker, but nonetheless, from the free kick, New Zealand running the ball, looking for the try. Hugh McGann, but crunching tackle made on him by Clyde. Dwayne Mann. James Golding bounces off two men, bounces off both Walters and Lewis. But there just does not seem any way through this Australian defence. They are like rocks of Gibraltar out there. But the New Zealanders again probing the line with Gary Freeman. Dwayne Mann at dummy half. But they've got to keep this pressure on the Australians, who are leading by 2 points to 0. Cooper, Erop, can't get past Wally Lewis. And the ground is certainly a little slippery down at that end of the ground. Noticeable that Kevin Erop started to slide as he tried to break to the left and get inside Erop. Gary Freeman, now you wouldn't believe this man hasn't had a game of football for 16 weeks. This is his first full match since the end of March. But he certainly has made a difference to this New Zealand team this afternoon. In the side in place of Clayton Friend. Now from the goal line dropout, Wally Lewis just taking a bit of a breather here after another pounding the Australians have taken in the last 5 minutes. And nowhere near the same amount of yardage on this kick. Tony Kemp, who really has had a superb game so far with two scintillating breaks. One which should have led to a try. Tuta. And the crowd absolutely going mad here every time Brendan Tuta takes the ball.
Yes, Paul Gorton's down in the background. He's not looking very good at all. He's done a shoulder.
Cooper again. The little switch pass to Kevin Erop. And there's the Australian vice-captain. He's not looking too good at the moment as play continues. With Johnny Lewis, the Australian trainer on the field, trying to revive, I think, Paul Borton. He's out of it at the moment. Meanwhile, play continues. From the little grubber kick, it's Dale Shearer runs into Gary Freeman. And Australia with only 12 men in this match at the moment. Backo. 10 metres outside the quarter line, and Vorton, who is looking like he's just taken an 8 count, is determined to stay on the match. The trainer's trying to take him off as Lewis with the kick. And oh, this is extraordinary. Now Vorton's got to go off. Now Vorton has fallen over twice as the New Zealanders under pressure. There's a real drama unfolding here between Vorton and Lewis, but it's Tony Erop trying to run New Zealand out of trouble. Now Vorton has waved away 3 St John ambulance men who have come on the field and the trainer, and he won't go off. But I don't think he can contribute much to this Australian effort in the state that he's in at the moment.
Well, I don't know whether it's guts or stupidity. It's one or the other. He's not looking very good anyway.
Meanwhile, this match, which really has been played at a feverish pitch in front of a very excited crowd of 20,000 people here who haven't stopped yelling since the players came on the field 25 minutes ago. Belcher from fullback. Curry and Shearer. And the New Zealanders have made their tackles on these two fleet-footed Queenslanders today, and they just haven't been the menace so far in the match that they were in the first test a week ago. Belcher from fullback, almost up to halfway. Meninga makes play 10 metres inside the New Zealand half. And I think he spotted a little fumble there from Meninga, and the scrum has been called for. And now there is a stoppage for an injury, and it's to Kerrod Walters, the Australian hooker, who seems to be okay. Howie Tamati down there on halfway.
Yeah, they're going really well. They're going really well now. Putting some pressure on the Australians. Oh, just another error there. It's a pity. They're just starting to get their act together. But no, really good performance so far by the Kiwis.
Disappointment on the face there of Darryl Williams after he knocked the ball forward. He lost his footing on a little slippery part of the ground there, and it affected his ability to hang onto the ball. And Belcher regains it 10 metres inside the New Zealand half. Well, I guess Graham Lowe, if you're listening to us there in Brisbane, you'd have to be a little concerned, I suppose, about the fact that the New Zealanders have pressed for 25 minutes but still have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, but it's important, Brendan, that they just carry on doing what they're doing. Just cut out a couple of those errors that they've put on just recently, but they're going okay. The thing is that you're playing against the best side in the world. You're not going to score every time you get the ball. You've just got to be patient. It'll come. As long as they just keep going, it'll come. But what does concern me is a couple of the Kiwis are just starting to fall off the tackles a little bit.
So another mistake from the Australians, a dropped ball from Sam Backo, and New Zealand with 6 tackles from their own line. Kemp, the danger man in this New Zealand backline this afternoon. The rookie who went to Newcastle. We haven't seen much of him here in New Zealand outside of Taranaki, but he's really showing the full repertoire of his attacking skills this afternoon. As Todd takes it up 10 metres outside the quarter line, still inside the Australian half. And Gary Freeman, but there's no way through there. For the 28-year-old New Zealander, there he is, playing in his 10th test today. And Shane Cooper kicking straight to Dale Shearer. And I think it's James Goulding that receives a penalty for a dangerous tackle on Dale Shearer. Shearer, who took the kick. And in fact, it was Tony Kemp that went in with the stiff arm tackle on the head of Dale Shearer. The Australians received the penalty. From the free kick. Midway 22 and halfway, the Australians on attack, leading by just 2 points to nil. The only points in the match so far, a penalty to Mel Meninga. Lewis sitting in. So into the last 10 minutes of this, the first half. Interception. Now has Dwayne Mann got the legs? Belcher gets him from behind. No, he steps out of Belcher's tackle, and he just couldn't get his pass to Tony Kemp. And I'm afraid, unfortunately for Mann, the ball rolled forward, and so Australia get the loose head.
Yeah, hard luck, Dwayne Mann. That was a good run. Pity it wasn't one of the wingers. Tony Kemp was coming up inside him. Here's Dwayne Mann on the way down the sideline. Here's the support coming here from Tony Kemp. Gets away from the first tackle. He just can't release the ball to Tony Kemp on the inside. Bad luck.
So after 30 minutes of this second test here at Rotorua, it's Australia ahead by 2-0. Graham Lowe.
Yes, Brendan, it was an example just then with young Dwayne, losing the ball in that tackle. Like, it was a gallant effort by him, but they don't have to be so impatient. They've just got to bide their time. We would have been better off taking the tackle. We had all our players coming onto the ball. They didn't have anyone in the defensive line. That was a chance gone begging because of that situation. The Kiwis have just got to be a little bit more patient. The more they try and force the play, the more errors that'll come in. They've got to just be a little bit more patient. It'll come because at this stage, in my opinion, any rate, both sides look very even. So they've just got to be patient. Just bide their time.
So the scrum to go down inside the Australian half. Lewis, the long pass to Belcher. Kemp looking for him, Meninga. And he doesn't get out of the tackle of Shane Cooper. A classic copybook tackle by Cooper round the ankles. That was the end of the big Queenslander Mel Meninga. Taken ahead by Clyde. Bradley Clyde, not as prominent today as he was in that first test. Lewis, Meninga, seeing more of the ball today. And another fumble by the Australians. They're just not having a good day.
This is a complete turnaround from last week. The Australians are making all the drop passes today. This is good, and it's all coming from good Kiwi pressure.
Freeman darting around the scrum outside the Australian quarter line as Tudor again steps through Kerrod Walters, but Horton, who's still on the field, takes him in the tackle. Sam Stewart, Alexander takes him. Freeman again. I think he thought about the little grubber kick. Merce up. Makes play over the quarter line. Dwayne Mann at dummy half. New Zealand still looking for their first points in this match, which is now 30 minutes old. The kick from Shane Cooper, well taken by Belcher, but right on his own line. A slightly groggy Gary Belcher. Plays it to Michael Hancock, the Australian left winger, who's only seen the ball, I think, twice in this first half. Meninga, who's really been in the fray of it this afternoon. Kerrod Walter, who's so dangerous from those rucks as he just about eludes the New Zealand defence. But the Australians just not finding the gaps in the New Zealand defence in which they were able to pick up last week, particularly in that first half where they scored 3 tries. The only points today, a penalty from Mel Meninga. Lewis kicking it away from Darryl Williams. Covers it inside his own quarter line. Alexander and Meninga take the tackle on Williams. Tony Iro to his brother Kevin. Good understanding between the two Iro brothers there as they keep the ball alive. The Australians claiming that he was in touch. Touch judge sees it quite differently. Freeman and Cooper. And this field is starting to get rather slippery. It looks deceptively solid, but there are parts of it where it is very slushy indeed, and the players having difficulty keeping their footing. And the knock on from Brent Todd.
I think at this stage of the game, or even the start of the second half, if we can start getting Gary Freeman playing outside of Shane Cooper in attack, I think that we'll see more of effectiveness.
So Australia inside the New Zealand half as Sam Backo tries to push off Tony Kemp, and that's another lost possession by Australia. And Tony Kemp taken into touch. Well, the Australians might be making the mistakes, but so far their defence has been absolutely solid. From the scrum, Lewis almost ghosted through that gap there, but it was eventually Tony Kemp that took him. You've got to watch this man. He is so clever. Curry. And the ball has gone loose, but Hancock's there for Australia, who picks it up, decides to have a bit of a run himself, gets away from Dwayne Mann, and gets away also from Brent Todd, but eventually Todd comes from behind and takes this tricky Queensland left winger. There he is, Michael Hancock, playing in only his second test match. Walters, another one of the newcomers in the Australian team, also made his test debut last week. As the Australians again through Surin, and gets his pass away, and this is danger for New Zealand. It's Alexander, but Tony Iro goes back there, he gathers in the ball, but it was, yes, Iro managed to keep the ball from Meninga.
Lucky escape there for New Zealand. We've got to watch Walters around the play the balls. He's like Grease Lightning from dummy half when he takes off. Got to contain him.
And that is half-time here at the Rotorua Stadium, a pulsating 40 minutes of International League. And at the half-time break, the only points in the first half, a penalty to Mel Meninga midway through their first spell, but a marvellous, spirited performance from the Kiwis. It's 2-0 at the break.
We've listened to the comments of Graham Lowe, we've listened to Greg Clark. Let's go back now to Grant Nisbet and Howie Tamati are on the sideline.
Thank you, Philip. Yes, and about to get underway. Let's go to Brendan.
We'll talk to Howie Tamati in just a moment about his thoughts about that marvellous first 40 minutes as Wally Lewis starts the second half of the second test match, and it's Gary Freeman who played such a pivotal part in that New Zealand first half effort immediately with the ball. Well, Howie Tamati, you heard Graham Lowe at half-time and he pinpointed the key words, composure and patience. Do you agree? No sign of Howie Tamati at the moment. We'll come back to him down on the touchline in just a moment as the New Zealanders running it out from inside their own quarter line, playing into the sun in the second half. There's no wind here at the International Stadium. It's a clear, cool day. But the New Zealanders looking into the setting sun as Gary Belcher takes it from fullback. So we had no luck with Howie Tamati. We might try our luck with the man sitting alongside of me, Frank Endicott. A couple of key words I thought that Graham Lowe mentioned there at half-time about the Kiwis retaining their composure and being patient.
Yes, I agree with those comments entirely. They must show perseverance. They're right in this game. They've just got to hold it together, stick to their game plan. It's so refreshing to see a real positive approach from this side today. They're in with a big chance here.
So while Kevin Errol receives some medical attention from the New Zealand physiotherapist, the play continues, and Kevin Errol looking as if he has sustained a knock to his right arm. Gary Freeman. To Brendan Tuta. It's been a more controlled performance today from Brendan Tuta, but he certainly hasn't shirked in the tackle department. He in fact made 16 tackles in the first half. And Tony Errol. Dwayne Mann and the Australians, I think, up off side. Yes, it was Kerrod Walters, and here's another opportunity for New Zealand. Now, they must kick for goal, surely. Hugh McGann is having a word to Tony Kemp, and I think it's Kemp that's going to kick for goal.
Yeah, well, if Tony Kemp's on, he can put them over from this distance.
And there's Mr. Tennant catching Kerrod Walters up inside the 5 metres and gives the penalty to New Zealand.
It's quite significant there, Brendan, to notice that the Australians are already feeling the pressure in that Greg Alexander, who I noticed wasn't in the game all that much at all in the first 40 minutes, has now been replaced by Des Hasler, who is a lot more conversant with Wally Lewis's play, so you could see an improved combination in their halves.
There's Tony Kemp, and that's another miss for New Zealand, but that was a more difficult kick, but it wasn't a bad attempt from a part-timer, Tony Kemp. So that's 3 shots at goal New Zealand have missed this afternoon, 2 of them from very handy ranges, and the score remains at 2-0. The only scoring in the match so far, a penalty to Mel Meninga. As Gary Mercer playing in front of his home crowd, a Rotorua boy, born and bred, along with the New Zealand coach, Tank Gordon, who also domiciled here in Rotorua. Plays his rugby league. Mercer for the Bay of Plenty, one of the newcomers to the code. Brent Todd runs it up into the Australian half. Freeman, Shane Cooper. And the little chip kick. And Belcher happy to let it see it run dead. Played a restart from the 22. From the restart, Sam Bacco. A nicely smother tackle there from Dwayne Mann, who topped the New Zealand tackle count in the first half with 18. Brent Todd chimed in with 16, as did Tuta, and Sam Stewart with 12. The Australians receive a penalty for New Zealand offside, 10 metres inside their own half.
Yes, these are soft penalties, these 5-metre ones, and the referee's taking a different approach to what he did in Christchurch last week, where he let the 5 metres go.
A penalty count of 6-5 to Australia in the first half, as Bacco at full speed. These big Australian forwards, they really are so athletic. They're like Roach. Look at him again, 17.5 stone, and has real pace when he elects to run. So hard to bring down the Australians. Inside the New Zealand quarter line, and Sirinen, and he just couldn't get his pass away, but boy, he is so tough to bring down. And he's given Gary Freeman a bit of stoush, and that's a penalty against Sirinen. But I have a feeling that there might have been a bit of Hollywood there, with all due respect to Gary Freeman. It didn't look too dangerous or harmless. Brave tackle nonetheless on Freeman as he took the big man on, his teammate from Balmain, but there was no love lost there between the two club mates. And Sirinen, as he turns round, and yeah, I'd give Freeman 10 out of 10 for acting there. Nonetheless, the New Zealanders get a penalty, and from the free kick, it's Gary Mercer that takes play up to halfway.
It's a dangerous time now that New Zealand's got to be able to control, because getting a penalty like that from our little blokes being knocked around by the big Australian forwards, it's all right receiving the penalty, but we don't want to get carried away. We've got to still remember that we've got to maintain our concentration. That's vitally important. We can't afford to get carried away at all.
So New Zealand losing possession there, the Australians have it. But this was one area where the Australians certainly came off second best in the first half. They conceded possession 9 times, dropped the ball on 9 separate occasions. New Zealand did so 6 times, and that really is a reversal from last week in Christchurch. And as Frank Endicott said, an indication of the pressure that New Zealand has been able to exert on the Kangaroos today. Australia receive another penalty inside their own half as Dwayne Mann looks up and sees that his side's being penalised. There he is, Dwayne Mann, who can be very pleased with his first test performance today. 18 tackles in the first half. And Wally Lewis kicking for touch inside his own half. Hancock. 8 minutes of play since the break. No change to that half-time score of 2-0, as Roach just couldn't quite free his pass in the tackle. And again, Wharton, who really didn't come into the play much at all after he suffered that what appeared to be almost a bout of concussion from a big tackle on him by Brendan Tuta, but he's back in the field. And Mandinga takes it up to the quarter line. Bacco looking for Kerrod Walters out to his left, and the Australians hot on attack as Lewis, a little bit of room to move here for the Australian backs. Belcher, the long pass to Bradley Clyde. Clyde gets his pass across to Hancock. You've got to watch this boy, but that was a kick in desperation from Hancock. It went deep, and the New Zealanders were under no pressure. Brendan Tuta, who I'm sure has redeemed himself in the eyes of certainly Tank Gordon, and I imagine probably Graham Lowe as well, who were two of many who was critical of his over-aggressive play last week, but it's been a much better and controlled performance from the Cantabrian today.
The game's lost a bit of its momentum at the moment, Brendan. Again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's vitally important that New Zealand stick to their planning at the moment, because the game is getting a bit higgledy-piggledy. There's been a couple of penalties, a couple of stoppages in play, both sides making the odd error now and then. They've got to get right back to their game plan, get back, play it to the centre of the field. They should look to that lion red sign in the middle of the field, play it to the centre, and then have them on right out on the edges. If they do that, I'm confident that New Zealand's going to win this match.
Okay, well, let's see how the Australians go from the scrum inside the New Zealand half as Tony Curry This twinkle-toed Queensland centre gets away from one, but taken in the tackle as Clyde again. Bradley Clyde, this big, fast-running Canberra Raider, just 19 years of age, and Australia suddenly up on the New Zealand quarter line. Lewis, Dazzler, and away he goes. He stepped out of one tackle, looking for some support, and that pass, looked a fraction forward, but might well be the first try. Hancock, yes, we must have a look at that last pass though. But nonetheless, the Australian Mr. Tennant has given the try, and it's 6 points to 0.
Yes.
New man on the field, Desi Hazlitt, that set it up. And just watch him, number 14, with a superb little break here. As he wrong-footed the New Zealand defence, went straight through the gap, left 3 of them for dead. Now watch this pass. Well, that was certainly a marginal one, and I guess the referee, he may well figure that he gives the attacking team the benefit, but from here it looked forward, but Hancock gets there for the try anyway.
Yes, I'd like to have a look at this pass again. This was so forward, it should have been in the curtain raiser. Here he goes, pivot, gets the pass away, definitely a forward pass. But the referee signals a try, and it's 4 points. It always tells on the scoreboard at the end of the game.
But this was the man that deserves most of the kudos. It was he that made the break, kept the ball alive, made the pass, got it as far as Curry, who passed it to Hancock, and Michael Hancock, just 19 years of age, gets his first test try, and it couldn't have come at a better time for the Australians at 6-0. So now Meninga trying to add the extra 2 points, and yes, well, he's got his kicking boots on, even if the New Zealanders hasn't. And suddenly the Australians are out to an 8-point lead, and the New Zealanders are going to have to score twice.
Yes, now this is where it's going to tell on the New Zealand side. They've got to come back into the game. It's a bit unfortunate at the moment that they're down on the scoreboard, but they could be happy with their performance up to date. But they need quick points on the board now.
Kevin Eros starts play. We've had 12 minutes of play in the second half. Still 28 minutes of the match to run. Plenty of time left for New Zealand. But they now have to breach the Australian defence at least twice to win this match. Well, Graham Lowe, that really must be a major blow, I guess, psychologically to the Kiwis, who have done so much of the attacking in this match.
Yeah, it certainly is, but they can come back. It was quite significant watching Australia score that try, and that Wally Lewis took the first pass, and Des Hasler, who was a running player outside him, created it. I think that's what New Zealand's got to do. I think Shane Cooper has got to take the first pass and give Gary Freeman a running chance outside.
Another lost possession there by New Zealand, as the Australians have it inside their own half. Vaughton. Kenneth Walters. The Rotary makes play up to halfway. Hasler, Lewis, Belcher, Curry. Kemp takes him in the tackle. Still inside the Australian half. Suggestion of a fumble there from Belcher, but however, the referee incited by it, and Lewis to play the ball to Kenneth Walters. To Suriname at full speed. Can't get away from Hugh McGann. Walters again to Lewis. Looks at his options. It's to Belcher. And Belcher this time with the kick deep. Watched by Darryl Williams, his opposite number, and play to restart from the 22. So Brett Todd on the New Zealand quarter line. Well, we might try our luck again with Howie Tamati down there on the touchline. Howie, bit of bad luck for the Kiwis there.
Oh, we're just putting too much pressure on ourselves. We haven't really been able to mount any strong attacks inside their 22. Every time we get the ball, we seem to be turning it over, and that's no good. We've got to play out our sets of 6. Now we're down here. We've got to put pressure on them for this set of 6 tackles, and hopefully get the ball turned over to us where we can get into a scoring situation. But there's still a long way to go yet, and if the boys just keep sticking at it, then we can perhaps, we still can win this game.
Well, they have 25 minutes of the match left to get themselves back into this match. With Australia ahead by 8 points to 0. A penalty to Meninga in the first half. A try to Hancock converted by Meninga 10 minutes into the second spell. And the Australians, the world champions, leading the second test by 8-0. Of course, they're one up in the series after their 20-point win last week in Christchurch. And Lewis kicking deep. Williams inside his quarter line. He's allowed to move 5 metres before the Australian defenders, who are in front of Lewis, can approach him. Now Belcher letting the ball go dead, is he? He's taking a bit of a risk. And it's right on the line. Cooper looking at the referee to see what he rules, and he says the ball has gone over the dead ball line and play to restart from the Australian 22.
Big kick there from Daryl Williams.
And this is a Phil Bancroft, who looks like he's about to make his first appearance in Test League as he's warming up on the sideline. The brilliant little Auckland halfback. Now Vorton seems to have been well and truly recovered from the concussion he had in the first half. Haslip to Lewis. Lewis, there's the break for Belcher, looking for some support. Good crunching tackle on him by Freeman. Again, it was that man Lewis that sniffed out that half break and put Belcher in the clear. Haslip, who has replaced his fellow New South Welshman Greg Alexander, but is playing at halfback rather than at standoff, where he normally plays. Back to Williams. It's Tony Shearer, 10 metres inside his own half. As soon as he's run 5 metres, the defenders can tackle him, and he makes play almost up to halfway. Vorton, as Hugh McGann just hangs off him, and Vorton makes play up to halfway. And the interception taken there by Dwayne Mann ends what has been a fairly successful period of play from the Australians, getting more of the possession in the second spell than they did for much of that first half. Tony Kemp can't get away from Sam Backo. Yes, but he gets his pass as far as Zerot to Goulding, and a crunching tackle on him by Sutherland. New Zealand still with possession inside their own half. Still no points from the Kiwi effort so far in this match, which is now 70 minutes old into the second spell. Sam Stewart, and he just couldn't free his pass to Daryl Williams, and the gap was there for the New Zealand fullback. And without wishing to sound unduly parochial, the Kiwis certainly have had no luck in this match today.
What a great moment for Phil Bancroft coming on at the moment. This could just make the difference with the goal kicking. This guy is one of the best goal kickers in the world today.
And leaving the field is Shane Cooper. So Bancroft comes into standoff and gets his first test of Test match lead. And he's immediately into the fray as he wraps up the Australian replacement on the field. That's Haslip. And Haslip, I think, might have fumbled the ball in the play, the ball there, and so the New Zealanders get a loose head. Going the short side. Freeman, he's got Mercer there with him, but again, the ground proving a little treacherous. Mercer. Bancroft.
Yes, Bancroft could make a little bit of a difference now for the Kiwis, because he is a very, very reliable goal kicker, and obviously New Zealand's been let down at this stage of the match. But also they have to do something, because they're not getting anywhere. They're just passing the ball around. They're not really making the incisive breaks they were making in the first half, and maybe Phil Bancroft is the sort of player who can spark things off.
Those comments from Graham Lowe, who's watching this match live from the Channel 9 television studio in Brisbane. And And we're here live with you from the International Stadium in Rotorua, where the Australians are leading by 8 points to 0 midway through the second spell. Only one try in the match. It came just after the break, and it was scored by Michael Hancock, the Australian left winger. Sam Stewart smuggles the ball back from New Zealand and carried on by Brent Todd. One replacement made by each of the two teams since the break. Hasler on for Alexander and Bancroft on for Cooper. And a penalty against Vorton. And it was Vorton that was penalised by Mr. Tennant. And Bancroft already with an opportunity to kick for goal. He's only been on the field a couple of minutes. And it's not a particularly easy kick he's got either. It's from a soft part of the ground, and it's a kick of the best part of 40 metres. This man who had such a slashing game, first of all in the Auckland versus the Rest trial a couple of weeks ago, and then he followed that up with another very good game against the Australians in Palmerston North on the tour opener in the President's 13 match. A very complete footballer with a wide range of attacking skills, and also, as Frank Endicott said, a very good goal kick. Another miss today. That's 5 out of 5 that the Kiwis have missed. Well, if they'd landed them all, they would have been leading the match. And there's Tank Gordon to the left of the picture, looking rather sombre and pensive, as he well might, reflecting on the chances that his team has had, particularly in the goal-kicking area, but they haven't been able to convert any of them at all. And Lewis restarting play from the 22. Darryl Williams taking it at speed, runs up to halfway, and what a formidable sight that must be, as a wall of Australian warriors just lined up there, all eager to absolutely crush the New Zealander. But he didn't flinch, and New Zealand now 15 metres inside the Australian half.
New Zealand must use their full batch of 6 tackles here. They must take 3-4 plays in and then work it in for a set play.
Freeman. A little dummy to Bancroft, but it didn't fall either Backo or Roach, the two prop forwards in the Australian side that wrapped up the New Zealand halfback, Sam Stewart. It's the 5th tackle. Freeman, the long pass to Tony Iroa. And again, the Australians come away with it, though, as Iroa's pass goes astray before he could get the little kick in. And Australian again inside the New Zealand quarter, but they have 6 tackles. And the New Zealanders, for one of the few times in this match... Well, I think at this stage, Darryl, this stage of the game, New Zealand's probably reacting to what Australia's doing instead of taking the initiative themselves. Gary Freeman obviously has been the one in the first half that had the spark, but at this stage of the game, he's just standing and passing a little bit too much. I think if one of the other players could pass it on to Freeman and let him have a bit of a dab on his own, maybe this Australian defence could be broken, because the way they're playing at the moment, I don't think they've got any hope whatsoever of breaking it, because it's just too sound. It certainly is, Darryl. You know, it's been a major part of my life in recent years, and when you see these blokes with the opportunity as well of winning the game, but are starting to get back into their shells a little bit, it is very, very frustrating. But there's still a little way to go, and you never know what can happen in a match. The thing that does worry me, Darryl, is we haven't seen much of Wally yet. That's what I'm really scared about. Well, we're having some problems with our lines to Brisbane, and Graham Lowe, who's actually talking to Daryl Eastlake, the Channel 9 commentator, who's here doing the commentary back to Australia. But I think we've cleared the Trans-Tasman Airways at the moment, and we're back here with Frank Endicott.
Well, we're certainly not going to score the tries from where we are at the moment. We've got to get down in the Australian 22. We've got to hold the passes when we get in the attacking positions. I'm real impressed with the work that Brent Todd's doing out there at the moment. He's taking the ball up all day.
The kick from Mercer, that's an awkward one for Hancock. He decides to let it bounce, and there's a bit of confusion there between Hancock and Belcher. Neither of them are really keen on taking it, and Tony Iro, who was really zooming up the right wing there, but the ball bounced into touch. A sense of satisfaction, I imagine, in the Australian camp. And Bobby Fulton shading his eyes from the setting sun here on this beautiful day in Rotorua. The first time ever an international rugby league test has been played outside of the three main centres in New Zealand, between Australia and New Zealand. And Wally Lewis with the penalty deep inside his own half. We haven't yet seen any of that spontaneous brilliance of Wally Lewis, as Roach takes it up 10 metres inside the New Zealand half. Bradley Clyde carries it on up towards the quarter line. New Zealand on defence here as the Australians are ahead by 8 points to 0. Vorton and Hasler again, who just about slipped through there. He couldn't keep his hands on the ball. And he really has plenty of spark. I'm not at all worried by the slightly soft underfoot conditions. Here he is, Desi Hasler, the man who set up that first Australian try.
Mark Horner onto the field. Brendan Tuta, the man he replaces.
And another replacement being made in the New Zealand camp as Brendan Tuta is leaving the field, and he's being replaced by Mark Horner. There he is, Mark Horner, who's immediately into the match, wearing number 17 for New Zealand, replacing the New Zealand loose forward, Brendan Tuta.
To me, it's quite obvious at this stage, Brendan, that Wally Lewis has said to his players, let's slow this game down. And they've slowed it right down to a walking pace, and unfortunately New Zealand hasn't reacted to that situation. They've just played right into Australia's hands. They've got to open the ball up. They've got to get it back to the centre of the field and then keep attacking them on the edges, because that's where they were doing the damage. They're now sucked into playing straight down the middle the whole game, and also playing at a much slower pace. We're running out of time now, and unless New Zealand can speed things up, they are going to run out of time.
And they only have 13 minutes of this match remaining. And Wally Lewis, who's almost, I suppose, unobtrusively has, as Graham Lowe said, stamped his mark on the second half of this match by these tactics of slowing the match down. He's constantly talking to his players. He gets through an enormous amount of chat in the course of a match, but he seems to know where every one of his players are exactly on the field, and he's constantly giving them directions, talking to them. The Australians doing exactly as Lewis has instructed them to, and have this 8-point margin going into the last 10 minutes of the match. Brendan Tuta with the doctor with the New Zealand team, Lloyd Drake, on the bench. And from the free kick, 10 metres inside the Australian half, the wide pass to Bancroft, to Kevin Ero running at pace. He's got Kemp there with him, and Mercer takes it back on the inside to Williams. Well, Gary Mercer was really steaming down on the left there, but the New Zealanders brought switchblade back into the centre. Sam Stewart trying to run the ball wide, trying to increase the pace of the match maybe. Perhaps they've woken up to the Australian tactics at last. A bit more urgency about the Kiwis at the moment. Bancroft again, the long pass to Kevin Ero. Ero gets it to Hugh McGunn. They're inside the Australian quarter line, and they haven't been in there many times in the second spell. to Horo, the new man on the field, Mark Horo. They're out in front of the Australian posts. It's Freeman with a little kick, and Meninga has a problem, and let's have a look. Oh, again the New Zealanders just not having that ounce of luck, as Mel Meninga made a hash of it from a little grubber kick that bounced away from him, but the ball went dead. And watch the little grubber kick here from Gary Freeman. He placed it to perfection, and Meninga couldn't get his hands on him. Belcher made a mess of it as well. The ball went loose, but the Australians just escaping by the skin of their teeth, and that could have been a 6-pointer. It was right under the posts.
Just a fine line between 6 points and nothing.
And Meninga, I'm not sure even on his second attempt he managed to force it, but the ball rolled dead anyway. But New Zealand now with the 6 tackles from the restart. Brent Todd up inside the Australian quarter line again. New Zealand desperately looking for a try to get back into this match with now just 10 minutes of the second test remaining. Bancroft to Freeman. I think it might have been a forward pass there. That last pass from Bancroft to Freeman, and the Australians get the loose head. And centre field, just outside the Australian quarter line.
You're unfortunate there because we're on attack, couple of plays to go. They're the chances we've got to take. All of a sudden you lose your advantage.
New Zealand receive a penalty. I think it was Walters that was penalised there for striking before the ball went into the scrum. And this is right out in front. And Bancroft again must kick for goal. But of course, I think the referee's indicated it was a scrum penalty, and so the differential penalty means that New Zealand can't kick for goal, and so Williams gets his kick into touch. So now from the free kick inside the Australian quarter line again. They're only 10 metres out as Bancroft decides to have a little probe, but Bradley Clyde takes him. McGann still running at full pace into these big Australian men. There's Meninga with the intercept. Who's got the pace to catch Meninga? Daryl Williams is giving chase. Oh, another beautiful tackle from Williams. The big man was in full flight, but there was no one better placed than Williams for the tackle, and he made it round the ankles.
Great tackle, Daryl Williams. Another 6-pointer save for New Zealand, just carrying on what he did in Christchurch last week.
And that really would have been good night nurse for the Kiwis if Meninga had been able to get away from Daryl Williams. But anyone else on the Kiwi side, and he probably would have scored. But Backo. And yes, Backo with the fumble. Tried to play it to himself. Seven minutes of this match remaining, plus perhaps a minute the most of injury time, as Bancroft gets away from Lewis, but Borton wraps the new Kiwi test man on 10 metres out from his own line. Horo. And the ball left behind, scooped up by Sirinen. Meninga. 10 metres out, the Australians looking to wrap this match up. A try here, and that would seal the Kiwis' fate in the series. Australia. Haslip, the man who set up that first try, but the Kiwis watching him like a hawk this time is McGann and Todd. Lewis to Belcher, left behind by Curry, taken by Goulding, and New Zealand with 6 tackles from inside their own quarter line. Mercer. Bancroft. Stewart. So a match of missed opportunities for New Zealand. 5 shots at goal, all going astray. And they've had a couple of scoring opportunities as well, where just a little bit of finish and a little bit of impetuosity has let them down with dropped balls and a couple of forward passes. And the Australians as well, with just a little more luck in this match today. And there'll be controversy over that try that they scored when this match is analysed, when it finishes, and it's only got 5 minutes to run. One senses, Frank Endicott, there'll probably be more disappointment in the New Zealand team about this performance than there was about their hiding last week in Christchurch.
Yeah, for sure. No, they've had chances to win this match today, and I still think that they can come out of this game with a lot of credit. It looks as though the game's away from them here with 5 minutes to go, but, you know, they've played their best today. They've given it their best shot.
Yes, they were thoroughly outplayed in Christchurch last week. I don't think anyone would dispute that, but today it's been a far more competitive affair, and both teams have had their opportunities, and the New Zealanders, I'm sure, will feel rather depressed about the fact that they haven't been able to post any points at all from this match so far. As Tony Kemp, just a couple of metres from his line. We've had 36 minutes of play in the second half. Gary Mercer, who's made a good return to Test match rugby, takes a heavy knock from Mel Meninga. Horo again, who's revelling in his opportunity to get into the Australians. Sat through the first test and most of the second test before getting onto the field of play. Freeman, another who's made a very successful return to Test match football today with his performance, as Belcher on halfway, Bancroft and Sam Stewart make the tackle. Dale Shearer, hasn't been a match for him. He's seen very little of the ball on the right wing for the Australians. Bradley Clyde, not so prominent today as he was in his first test a week ago in Christchurch, but headed the Australian tackle count in the first half with 17. Steve Roach. And there must be some really tired men out there on both of those two teams. This first half, which was played at an extraordinary, feverish pitch, and a very physical 40 minutes it was in that first spell. And not surprisingly, the pace of the match has slowed down somewhat in the second half, which seems to have worked in favour of the Australians. And Shearer penalised for interfering with Darryl Williams.
Must be.
Well, Graham Lowe, as we look at this last 5 minutes of the match, and I suppose the New Zealanders will think back on it as a match of lost opportunities.
Yes, that's right. You know, they've played very, very well, but they did get sucked in this second half to playing the game at a slower pace, and also they've been sucked into playing it down the middle of the field. It's quite interesting to note the last time that New Zealand were in the 22-metre area and looked strong was when they did spin the ball just straight wide from attack. That is what they're going to have to do in this last test. It's unfortunate they're going to be disappointed tonight, but that's the way it goes. They have come out with a lot more credit. They've played a far more disciplined game this time, but I still think that, you know, test matches are there to be won, and they've got to go out to win this third one no matter what. And I'm confident that they can do if they play it wider. It's no good trying to just keep play out down the middle. It's very difficult to remember a time when the forwards have actually been backing one another up. They've all tried in their own individual ways, but they haven't really been supporting one another. It's just been one-out football. They've got to support one another and take the pressure off the ball carrier.
So New Zealand looking, at least I guess, for a consolation try. I guess they certainly deserve one for their effort in this match. They played better today than they did last week in Christchurch. And Howie Tamati.
Yes,
down there on the touchline now. Howie Tamati is the coach of the Wellington team, the next opponents for the Australians. What have you learnt today, Howie?
Well, I think the New Zealand side have played very well and can take a lot of heart from it. We really haven't been able to put enough pressure inside their 22. We've only really been down there once in this half. When we moved the ball and pushed hard at them, we've looked quite good in some stages. But we've got to put some pressure on them down inside their 22. And we've made far too many errors to be competitive today. But New Zealand Rugby League can be very happy with some of the performances today.
Howie Tamatu, whose team takes on the Australians at the Basin Reserve in Wellington at 3 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, and I'm sure they'll be hoping to repeat the performance of Auckland, who took the Australians out, of course, by 26 to 24 in the last match. But it's the Australians who have come back to winning form here today, leading by 8 points to 0 as we go into the last minute of this match, the second test. And the Australians are about to sew up this 1989 series. By winning here today, they take, of course, an unassailable 2-0 lead. And the sun sets on the International Stadium here at Rotorua, and it's setting also on the Kiwis and their fine performance here at Rotorua this afternoon, but not enough against this uncompromisingly tough and professional Australian side. They're not the world champions for nothing. And there it is, the final act of the match. This is Hasler running away with it. He's got about 3,000 young boys on the field chasing him as well, but it's all over. And the Australians have beaten New Zealand by 8 points to 0 in the second test here at Rotorua, and they take the series by 2 to 0. We'll be back with the captains in just a moment.
With me is the Kiwi coach, Tony Gordon. Tony, a much better effort today from the Kiwis.
Oh, definitely, but a lot better effort than the first test, but I feel we threw the game away in the first half, and that's what it's all about, I suppose, mistakes.
What really was the problem there, do you think?
Oh, we just didn't finish off. We busted their line 2 or 3 times. We could have brought off tries, and we missed a few goals, so, you know, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
You must have been quite proud, though, that coming from Rotorua, a big crowd and a good Kiwi performance.
Oh, I was definitely pleased with the bloke's performance, and especially the crowd really got behind him and made the Aussies work for their win.
He pulled a couple of players off there in the second half. What was the story behind that?
I mainly put Brankoff on to do the kicking, and I wanted a bit more attack out in our back line. And Brendan had worked his heart out, and he was tiring at that stage, so that's the only reason he came off.
All guns blazing now for Auckland.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to that one, and I'm quite confident we can win it.
Tony Gordon, thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
There we are, Tony Gordon, depressed state at the moment, I dare say, because his team has just been beaten by Australia 8 to 0. First reaction, Greg?
Well, a great effort by the New Zealanders to come back. They lost by 20 points in Christchurch, so no embarrassment really to lose by 8 points. But I just think that in the second half there, trying to take the Aussie forwards on up the front is like, running into a brick wall. I mean, why they didn't keep spinning it wide, I don't know, but I'm sure Graham Lowe will have some reaction on that very shortly for us.
OK, let's go to Brisbane now. Graham Lowe behind us here. Your reaction, Graham?
Well, like Greg said, I think that everybody can feel proud with the effort that the Kiwis put in and the control that they showed of their emotions that's necessary. But also you've got to remember that you can't win the game down the middle of the field against those monsters. They've got some big juggers out there. New Zealand's got to use their talent that they've got out wide, and that's what they've got to work on all this week. I think if they do that next week, they can win the third one. If they take them on down the middle, we'll lose again. But overall, I was pleased with a good effort, and I was especially pleased for Brendan Turner because he has been under a lot of pressure. I know I've given him some, but he's come out, I think, with plenty of roses today.
Do you think that Wally Lewis's treatment of that match, where you picked out that he'd slowed the game down in the middle stages of the second half, do you think that was a turning point?
Yeah, it was, and unfortunately New Zealand fell right into Wally's trap. The Australian side, because they are so big, just could not keep up that pace all the way through the game. I felt that the New Zealand team could have maintained a fast pace in the second half as well. I certainly didn't think the Australians could, and Wally picked it and won. Wally slowed the game down. The pace of the game, the momentum of the game slowed down. Then the mistakes started coming in. The referee played quite a part in it with various stoppages and whatnot, and that fell right into Wally Lewis's hands. New Zealand has got to play their own. New Zealand plays with flair and razzle-dazzle. That is the way they've got to do it. They've got to sure stick to their planning and whatnot, but in my opinion, the way to beat Australia is have a good kicking game, which Gary Freeman can provide. They then have to play to the centre of the field, just get it to the centre of the field with 1 or 2 passes. The moment they're in the centre...
Well, believe it or not, that was Graham Lowe disappearing there, I'm afraid. But anyway, we've listened to Graham all afternoon. His comments have obviously been thoroughly enjoyed, very perceptive comments. And Greg Clark, I think he summed up the game pretty well today.
Well and truly. And the big question is now whether or not the Kiwi selectors will stick to the 13 that ran on the field today, or whether or not they'll stick to the 13 that finished. It's going to be interesting to see what they come up with. And of course, there's Wellington against Australia midweek. The Aussies have got another match. They're going to be very tired by the time they come to Auckland, I would imagine. So it's all on for Mount Smart Stadium next Sunday. One not to be missed.
Tired as well, but they're tough, aren't they?
Certainly.
Uncompromising as well. Well, Graham Lowe had joined us today, and obviously we're pleased to have him aboard the team. We'll have him with us again next week when we bring you live coverage of the third international between New Zealand and Australia.